Is it recording?
Yes, right, we're rolling.
Right. Hi all, my name's Ashley Fardy
My name is Kunal Kondre.
and we are first year psychology students and we're currently working on a media piece for our university assignment surrounding BDSM and how it's not domestic or sexual abuse. Today we're interviewing Sarah. And Sarah, would you like to just introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Sarah Leckenby. I'm also a first year student at Sunderland University, studying psychology.
Thank you. So Sarah, are you aware of what BDSM is?
I've got an idea. I mean, I don't practice it myself, so I'm not really, up to date with everything that's going on with it.
So you say you've got an idea about what BDSM is.
Yeah.
Is this from, did you learn this from a media perspective? Is that how you sort of got an idea about
Yeah,
what?
like documentaries on it and stuff like that.
Yeah. How did you perceive BDSM?
To be honest, I perceived it as being like quite brutal. It's not something obviously that I would choose to do with my partners. But I think, if it's consensual, then, go for it. It's just, personal choice.
Yeah. Yeah. So there has been a lot of stigma surrounding BDSM and kinks. What are your general views regarding BDSM and the misconceptions around it, especially with regard to domestic or sexual abuse?
Like I said, if it's consensual and all parties agree, then I don't perceive it as being abuse.
Yeah.
I just think, people have sort of different, tastes for things, for want of a better word. Like people have different, different preferences for, what they like to do.
Yeah.
And I think it will cross the line when, a partner was using it over a partner who did not consent.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think triggers these misconceptions surrounding BDSM and domestic abuse?
I think it's the violent concept of it, isn't it? It's like somebody being like sort of dominant over you.
Right, yeah. Do you think pornography influences sexual behaviour and promotes sexual or domestic abuse in some cases?
I mean, if we're going to extreme pornography, then I would argue that it probably is the case in some cases. But in the vast majority of cases, I mean, people can watch pornography and still have perfectly healthy, relationships and sexual relationships.
Yeah, I agree. So BDSM generally involves a relationship of some sort between a dominant figure and a submissive figure. To your knowledge, is this true?
Yes.
And sometimes people engage in verbal or emotional or even physical discipline of a partner. Do you think this is domestic abuse? And if so, or if not, why?
Like I say, if both parties are consenting and that's how they sort of, enjoy their sort of sexual relationship, then I don't really see a problem in it. Like, the only time, like, I would perceive it as obviously being, like, wrong or violent or anything like that, or abuse, would be is if, the submissive just didn't consent to it.
Yeah, or boundaries were being pushed over.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So consent, as you've mentioned yourself, within BDSM is paramount. Kunal, edit that bit out. Why do you think people give consent to be verbally or physically disciplined?
I'm not sure. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they've lacked discipline in a younger part of their lives. Maybe they haven't had the structure or rules or anything like that, and they feel that they need to have like some sort of, structure, some sort of, boundaries.
Or on the flip side, if they're the dominant, you think that they might want to be in a position to put those boundaries down?
Yeah, like again, it could all stem from how they were brought up. If they were brought up very very strictly, and they they sort of want an outlet for that.
Right. So, what do you think the differences between BDSM and sexual abuse are? I think we've covered some already, haven't we?
I think BDSM is a healthy way to sort of to act out your preferences in a controlled way when both parties consent. Sexual abuse is obviously, when, they don't consent, they don't want to do it, the boundaries are being pushed and, there's significant harm comes to them.
Yeah, and there's obviously no consent at all, is there?
No.
So what do you think the difference is between coerced consent and obviously willing consent?
Like willing consent, obviously, obviously all do want to do this, and it's like, oh yeah, do you know what I mean? Coerced consent, in my mind, would be, obviously, oh, can we do this? And the other party's like, well, no, not right now. And then the other party's sort of like, oh, well, come on, you do it if you love this type thing, sort of like coercing them into agreeing, basically, into submitting.
Yeah, so basically manipulated into doing something they don't want to do, but they agree because they're being manipulated.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a difference in knowledge between BDSM practitioners and the general public regarding emotional and physical safety within sexual relationships?
Well, I think BDSM practitioners are probably the best people to ask, because obviously, that's what they're about. I think the general public look at BDSM, and obviously if they don't know, then they would just see it as, oh well, people just hitting each other, being horrible to each other, just it's violence basically.
So with regard to maybe vanilla, if you like, emotional and physical safety, do you think BDSM practitioners probably have I think in everyday life is what I'm meaning, outside of BDSM, do you think BDSM practitioners probably have a better understanding of emotional and physical safety?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I do think so. Purely for the fact that they know, what, they're very aware of safety and, boundaries and stuff like that.
So some evidence suggests that BDSM can be an excellent therapeutic tool for sufferers of trauma. Do you think this is the case? And if you do think this is the case, why do you think it's the case?
No, I would have to say no. If it's trauma, then you're not going to want to have violence in the most intimate part of your life, are you?
Yeah. I think it's probably down to individual preferences, like you said.
Yeah.
Other research suggests that BDSM promotes emotional well-being. Do you think this is possible? And if you do, why?
I don't know. Like, I would say it would just be on a case-by-case basis. Like, that might be an outlet for them. After a stressful day or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, but like I say, I wouldn't say it was for everybody.
Yeah. I think the research that I was reading, it was aimed at, it does promote emotional well-being purely because of the communication involved within BDSM.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a lot of communication and a lot of, they say that the control is in the submissive hands, and that boosts emotional well-being as well, apparently. Do you think BDSM could cause trauma for some individuals?
Yes, if it's done incorrectly, or if they've had like previous, sexual assault or abuse.
Yeah, it could maybe make somebody revisit that when they don't want to. There is research to show that BDSM practitioners were outraged at the film 50 Shades of Grey. Many people state it was promoting domestic and sexual abuse. Concerns surrounding consent were raised, and individuals within BDSM community were horrified about how this was being portrayed to the public. So if we were not knowledgeable about BDSM and the rules and safety precautions, we're given the wrong idea. What are your views surrounding 50 Shades of Grey and similar literature and films and TV shows from like a domestic abuse standpoint?
I just think it's a film first and foremost.
Yeah.
It's a piece of, creative art, as all films are. And I do think, it needs to be. I think it would have been nice if it had been handled a bit more sensitively towards those who practice BDSM.
Yeah.
But at the same time, everything you see on the big screen or the little screen for that matter isn't always the truth. And I just think the public would have needed to exercise some sort of, caution over like what they were saying, like knowing that it probably wasn't always like that, and the BDSM community should really know that too.
Yeah, so basically it's a film from your perspective, and that's all it is.
Yeah.
So do you think these things could be harmful to the BDSM community but also to the general public? For example, an individual or couple who have never engaged in BDSM or done research around it, so is it engaged in it based on these types of films? What could the implications be for the BDSM community and the general public?
I do think, it could be harmful to those who don't know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you just think, oh well, we're gonna have our intimate time tonight, and then I'm gonna sort of like, whack you with a whip or something like that. Unless you know what you're doing, then it could be harmful.
Yeah. And we're coming on to the final question now, and basically it is just, is there anything else you would like to add? Anything people should know about BDSM or domestic or sexual abuse?
Just that consent is key.
Yeah.
If you don't give consent, regardless if it's BDSM or not, it's sexual assault.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You can stop recording now, Kunal.